Hey, Chris Matthew here from Compute Inc. We're making great progress on our decentralized distributed supercomputing platform. In fact, everything around you will soon connect, communicate, and compute together seamlessly, and we call that infinite computing. If you've seen some of the previous videos, we've talked about this idea of computes really being kind of like blockchain 2.0. We built a DAG-based distributed ledger with something we call Lattice. That's a decentralized queuing platform that runs on top of computes, basically as a service, allowing you to create other services built on top of computes as really next generation computing. And to take this maybe another step forward, we were kind of wondering what could the Web 3.0 look like in this new computes decentralized computing world. We put together this simple little site we call Arpadyne that's very reminiscent of the ARPANET days, where the beginning of the internet was basically decentralized as well. Each node on the ARPANET network basically had a host file, which listed domains with IP addresses, not relying on DNS at all. Very primitive version of the internet. And to grow faster, the powers that be decided to more or less centralize the internet with DNS servers, domain name servers, where domain names map to IP addresses, and they established about a dozen of these worldwide to point domain names to websites, etc. Well, that has been flawed. That design is very susceptible to denial of service attacks, which we've seen like from the Mirai bot attack on the IoT webcams. Like a fourth of the internet, basically taken down with only 10% of the power of that Mirai bot attack. So, played with this idea of creating this site called Arpadyne, which is essentially ARPANET-esque, kind of running on top of compute. So rather than DNS, we created a new top-level domain we call .a, well, for Arpadyne. And we've already seeded a few sites like IPFS.a, Filecoin.a, and Computes.a onto the platform. Where if you go to any of these sites, what happens is Arpadyne talks to Computes and says, what is the hash, the IPFS hash for this website at this given point in time? And so without DNS, Compute says, hey, for computes.a, for instance, here's the hash of the website. Let's let you serve it or retrieve it in a peer-to-peer fashion, truly decentralized and distributed, just like the Computes platform is. So let's see how that works. If I go to computes.a, Arpadyne is now asking Computes for the hash. And if you notice, it loaded computes.a in the browser. And if you look here, notice that there's only two links at the top of the site. This was a snapshot back, probably a month or two ago of the Computes website via IPFS. Because if you go to computes.com now, it's got 5 links at the top. So you can see that you can kind of create versions of this, point the newest version at the newest hash, etc. But let me just show you, like if you go to something like, say, IPFS.a, for instance, again, the process pulls this instance of IPFS as a hash, all in a peer-to-peer fashion. This is particularly coming from one of my Macs in my home network. But so that's another interesting point, is that you could essentially surf the web without actually being connected to the internet. So all of these IPFS files and computes can all be in a private mesh computing network, allowing you to interact together as needed. So this is kind of beginnings of what we kind of think about when we think blockchain 2.0 and Web 3.0. We think computes and something like Arpadyne and a new series of decentralized apps being built on top of computes in the near future. So stay tuned.